So it is 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. I will remind everybody that tonight's meeting is being streamed at sandwichtv.org and broadcast on local channel 9. The meeting will be available on their YouTube channel and website tomorrow. Let's see here. Switch back to my agenda. So we have approval of prior meeting minutes very quickly. I resurfaced last week the meeting minutes from our June meeting and our July meeting. So I would entertain some motions regarding those.
I'll make a motion we approve the June 23rd meeting minutes as submitted.
Okay. Any questions, comments, modifications? All those in favor?
Aye.
So June passes unanimously. How about July?
Make a motion that we approve the July minutes meeting as submitted.
Second. Okay. Questions, comments? All those in favor? You're going to abstain, okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. Great. Seeing that we have light attendance from the public, is there any public comment? No? Okay, so we'll get right to the meat of the matter. We have guests from the Cape Cod Commission here tonight to discuss the Route 6A visioning study. I will turn the meeting over to David Nolan.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Nolan. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner at the Cape Cod Commission. I'm joined by Evan Costa, Transportation Planner at the Cape Cod Commission, and we've been working on a Route 6A visioning study across our region. So this summer we've been doing lots of outreach, and one of the communities that we feel like we don't have many public comments for at this point is the town of Sandwich. So I reached out to Sean and said, hey, can you help us get the word out about this project? We need to get a little bit more feedback from this community. And he was nice enough to invite us down to give a quick presentation tonight, hopefully no more than 15 minutes. Then I would just love to have some conversation about the project, about the corridor itself. And then beyond that, we have a public comment tool that folks can use to submit their ideas, their concerns, and whatever else they want us to know about Route 6A. So I'm going to give the first couple of slides here, and I'm going to pass it over to Evan to kind of talk about some of the data as part of this project. We'll quickly go over the project background, some ongoing and recent projects along 6A, existing conditions, the data and existing conditions photo inventory. We'll talk about the public comment tool, and then I'll go over kind of the next steps of this project and then open it up to some discussion. So overall, this project is a 2-year planning study that we're working on at the Commission. We started early back in October of 2024. It'll go through October 2026. So we're coming up to the close of our first year. The first year was all about public outreach, data gathering, and kind of understanding what's happening on the corridor. So Route 6A is a nationally designated scenic byway. Route 6A serves as a vital corridor where people live, work, travel. However, the roadway currently lacks safe and accessible options for all modes of travel. It's nice to come to a bike and pedestrian committee to kind of get that other angle of safety or needs along the roadway. So we're working with the Mass Department of Transportation. They are the majority roadway owner. They own a small section in Barnstable Village. The town, owns a small section in Barnstable Village. The rest of it is really owned by the state. So that's where we're trying to bridge a gap between our communities and the state to kind of see what kind of things can be done on 6A to improve the roadway while keeping that kind of historic feel that we all know and love. I like to reference that Route 6A is not Route 28. They should not look the same, but kind of the way some of the state standards are now, Route 6A is subject to bigger build being a state-owned roadway if we're going to touch the roadway. That's not really what we want to see on Route 6A. So I mentioned we started in fall of 2024. We put together an online public comment tool. We've been doing tons of outreach this summer. So this fall, what we're going to start to do is go through all these public comments we've received, really start to sift through the data. We're meeting with the state this Friday, actually, to kind of go over everything we've been hearing so far, to finally start the conversations with them, to talk about really the next steps to this study here. What can we start to bring forward as some actionable items for the roadway? We'll have draft and final reports in fall of 2026 once we kind of wrap everything up here. So far this summer, we did a suite of public meetings in late June in the town of Barnstable, the town of Brewster, and the town of Provincetown. Of note, Route 6A does pick up in Truro again. It's kind of known as Shore Road, but this project does include that section of 6A as well, Shore Road, Bradford Street, Truro, and Provincetown. So we've been trying to get to our communities. We went to a Yarmouth Dennis Red Sox baseball game and did a pop-up table where we got some good feedback from folks in that community. We went to a farmer's market in Truro as well, got some good feedback there. We went to the Cape Cod Cycling Club a couple of weeks ago, got some really good feedback there. Like I said, Sandwich was starting to be a glaring omission. That's why we're kind of here tonight, to try to get some more input in this community as well. The main goals of this project are to solicit feedback from those that use the roadway, review the existing conditions, and most importantly, advancing context-sensitive improvements to the roadway. Like I said, it's a historic, scenic roadway. We want to keep it that way, but can we improve in safety for all users of the roadway? So I mentioned the study area. It's all of Route 6A. You'll see the little gap here in Barnstable Village that's owned by the town. We're not really looking at that section of the roadway. We're just looking at the state-owned portions, which is the bulk majority of Route 6A. Again, study area showed just kind of the end here where Cranberry Highway comes in to head up to the Sagamore Bridge. That's kind of the end, our project limits in Bourne. And then shows kind of the last project limits out of Provincetown too, where the state highway begins and ends on Bradford Street. And I noted this signage here by Old Jail Lane, heading into Barnstable Village. So that's sort of the quick overview, the background of this study. I'll talk a little bit about some of the recent and ongoing projects. I called out Sandwich specifically on the project webpage, which everybody would have access to on the flyer I handed out. We'll get that to everybody else too. There's more information on all of these projects, and I called out more in each community. For tonight, I just kind of called out what's happening here in Sandwich. So we did a low-lying roads project a couple years ago. There was some Route 6A locations that were noted as low-lying as part of that project. So those are areas of focus in this community as part of this project. We looked at the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan that the town did, so we called out one of the prioritized projects as part of that plan was constructing sidewalks along 6A from the town line in Bourne to the Tupper Road East intersection. Then there's been some regional studies. In 1995, there was a bike accommodation study. 15 years later, there was a Route 6A corridor management plan update. Now another 15 years later, we're doing our visioning study. So we're really trying to piece together all these plans to get some good, positive infrastructure improvements. There's also been a number of road safety audits along the corridor. Most recently, there was one at the intersection of Route 6A and Route 132 in Barnstable. There's a couple of upcoming construction projects along 6A. One I wanted to call out, it's not currently funded, but it's a state prioritized project for just over $5 million, would be improvements to the sidewalk infrastructure along 6A in Barnstable. Here's an existing conditions photo on the right showing the existing sidewalks in Barnstable with some issues, we could say. Some root problems. It's a very narrow sidewalk. So right now the state's looking at getting this project funded to improve the sidewalk infrastructure from that intersection of 132 to the town-owned portion at Old Jail Lane into Barnstable Village. Another one I'll call out, which is currently unfunded, but a little bit further along in its planning process here, is a Yarmouth Port Village Center improvement. This one's just over $2.5 million. The goal of this project is to preserve the historic context while better defining the sidewalks, crossings, and parking spaces through this village center. So if anyone's familiar with the Yarmouth Port Village, right now there is on-street parking. You kind of just know that if cars are parked, it's sort of just wide swatch of pavement. The sidewalks kind of just spill right into the roadway as well. And there's a couple of inadequate crossings. So this project's really trying to make it feel more like a village area. It's going to look a lot like the Barnstable Village section of Route 6A. So it's going to kind of start to resonate with motorists. Okay, I'm in a village center now. This is what this looks like. People are going to be walking, crossing. It's time to start to slow down. There's businesses. And now there's that coffee shop in Yarmouth that has a line out and around the corner this summer. So there's been a lot of activity in this area lately. That's the quick overview. Again, if you go to some of the more, larger presentations we gave earlier this summer, I call it a dentist project, and a couple in Orleans as well. I try to keep it a little bit more focused this way, but there's a lot more you can find out about some of these previous projects. What I will do now is turn it over to Evan to go over the existing conditions, kind of the data, and then go through a quick photo inventory to kind of make sure we're seeing everything that you're seeing on 6A. You want me to continue to go? You got it.
So, like Dave said, I'm going to go over some of the existing data that we collected in preparation for this project, mainly speed limits, right-of-way, vehicle and non-motorist counts, as well as our crash history along this corridor. So we took a look at speed limits along Route 6 at 6A, and I'm sure if you're familiar with the corridor that you know that as you're traveling along, the speed limits vary throughout the different sections. Specifically, when you're entering and exiting a village center, you might have anywhere between a 35-mile-an-hour zone drop down to a 25, and then might spike back up to a 45-mile-an-hour zone. So during the summer of 2024, we took a look at several areas. We conducted 10 spot speed studies, and we have these listed out here. You can see exactly what the speed limit is listed there, as well as what our collected eastbound and westbound speeds for the 85th percentile. So that means 85% of vehicles were traveling that 85% or lower. We're traveling those speeds. So you can see there's a little bit of that comfortable speed that people are traveling. They feel like they can travel a little bit higher speeds on some of these roadways. We also took a look in depth of the right-of-way plans on Route 6. You can see this is some of the MassDOT layouts that are still being used today. They're very dated, as you can see. But they still offer up useful information. We were able to get that it's a 60-foot right-of-way in some of these locations. And from that, we developed another map. So this map tells us the rough right-of-way that you have on your 6A corridor throughout the entirety of the corridor. You can see that there's anywhere between 40 to 70 feet in some of these locations of right-of-way. Now that's not total roadway width, that's just available right-of-way that the state owns. Next, we took a look at traffic counts. We do, as you know, at the Cape Cod Commission, we do a lot of traffic counting. We count tons of roads. So 6A, we're no stranger to performing counts on 6A. We have lots of counts, but some of the areas that we wanted to highlight here are some of the town line locations. It's an easy place to set up because there's always generally something we can attach to, whether that be a radar or if we're putting our tubes, pneumatic tubes in the road to count cars. And so here's some of the town line counts that we have along 6A. Which we're counting the traffic volumes, they get the vehicle speeds, and we've done them in both the off-season and the peak season. You can see that generally in each of these locations, the volume goes up during the peak season, being the summer season, but the speeds dip a little bit down from what they are in the off-season. And that's, you kind of have to think more cars on the road, probably going a little bit slower. We also take a look at our non-motorists on this corridor, as mainly we do a lot of our non-motorist counts during the week of the 4th because it's such a unique week. There's so many people on the road with cars and vehicles that we find it's a tough week to count cars because volumes are so drastically out of what they would be normally. So we try to focus on what's happening with the non-motorists, and non-motorists being the pedestrians or bicyclist activity. And you see we have 3 12-hour counts here that we conducted, 2 of which were in Sandwich. These were all collected last year, I believe. And we have one at Jarvis Street and one at the east end of Tupper Road. You can see that we had almost 400 pedestrians in that 12-hour span crossing around in that area, and almost 60 bicycles. And that even at the east of Tupper Road, we still had a decent amount of people moving around in that intersection. And there's only, I believe there's one crosswalk over there that crosses 6A. We also have a number of other things that we can use. So those 3 counts right there are manual counts, 12-hour counts, but we also have other data devices that we use for collecting data, whether that be our non-motorist counters. We now have a fleet of 10 of them, which collects data for us automatically. And we had this one deployed over on a sidewalk along 6A in Brewster. collecting for a number of months. And you can see that there's a high percentage of people walking, crossing that counter on the 6A sidewalk during the summer months, as we would expect people to be using the facilities. But you can also see that there's still people in the dead of winter out there using the sidewalk. So we find that as valuable, important data. And at another intersection that we took a look here, just to call out as an example here, is Linnell Landing. And if you're familiar with the location, the bike trail is right around the Cape Cod Rail Trail, is right around the back of Kobe's, and there's a crosswalk crossing 6A here to go down to Linnell Landing. And so we took a look at how many people were coming off from the trail and making a cross to Linnell Landing, and then where they were going. So that's a typical turning movement count, is what one looks like. So there are about 9 traffic signals across the 6A corridor, 4 of which are in Sandwich, and we have some examples here. We have a mast arm, Route 6 and Jarvis Street, like I was talking about, and then we have a pedestal pole, Route 134, Dennis, and then over here we have a span wire at Baker's Pond. So those are some of the types you can see. So we also do a lot of crash data review at the commission, and as part of this report, we took a look through our crash top 50 report that we put out, and we found several locations that were ranked as high crash locations, and they may not seem like high crash. 19, 15, and 12 may not seem high crash, but for 6A they are. We have 19 crashes at Route 6A at Tupper and 130. It was ranked number 21 by crash rate, and by crash rate it means how many crashes combined with the amount of volume that's going through that intersection. And it was ranked number 46 by severity rate, which is the types of injuries that you would see during that crash, whether they be a fatal or a serious injury. So it ranked at number 46. We also have 15 crashes at Linnell, it ranked number 35 with severity rate, and then 15 Yarmouth at Union Street, number 57 by crash rate, and we have 6A at Quaker Meeting House in Sandwich with 12, and it ranks number 6 on the crash rate. It's important to note there were, between 2020 and 2024, there were 2 fatal crashes on Route 6A, one of which was in Bourne, right over at the Cranberry Highway intersection, which is right where the state highway ends, and then in Provincetown at Bradford Street, Bragg Street.
This crash history is from 2020 to 2024?
Yes, those 2, yeah. So we took a look back and we found those during our review. It's typical to look at 5 years worth of crash data when we're doing these corridor-wide projects, but if there were other fatals, we would go back and note that. So we had just additionally wrapped up a Vision Zero safety action plan for the entirety of the Cape, and we wanted to take some of that data from that project and use it into this project as well. And so in that project, we developed a high injury network that looked at intersections as well as roadway segments. And so here are some of the pulled out from that Vision Zero safety action plan are some of the high injury network intersections as well as the segments that were along 6A. And you can start to see some similar themes here, similar intersections, similar sections of roadway that keep coming up as sort of those key points that we were trying to get some comments about to move forward on this visioning study. We also have a bunch of transit ridership data that we got from the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority. This data is from 2022. It includes boarding and alighting data, which is every time someone gets on a bus or gets off a bus, the RTA makes a note of that. And so that's able to help inform them where they need better bus stop help. And so we took that data for them and put it into a GIS viewer, which made it easy to see where those high intensity boarding and alightings were happening. And 6A has a number of routes, the Sandwich Line, Barnstable Village, Flex, and Provincetown Shuttle. And they all of those routes operate as a flag stop. So if you're on 6A, you can flag the bus down and get on anywhere on 6A. So next we're going to take a look at some of the photos of the existing conditions. We took these photos roughly around spring, early summer of this year. So they're pretty recent, and they include pedestrian accommodations. I believe there's some bicycle accommodations in here, and as well as some transit observations that we made out there as well. So here we can see some stuff from Sandwich. We have a crossing right here, right over near Riverview School, and has a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or an RRFB. And that is a pedestrian activated signal that flashes and allows for drivers to see that there's obviously something they need to slow down for. We also have right over here actually on 6A in front of Snowy Owl, there is a marked crosswalk across with signage, and it's got the warning detection strips for visually impaired folks. We also have, some locations that are kind of lacking with pedestrian accommodations. You can see here in Dennis, there's this intersection at 134 that doesn't have any marked crosswalks. Additionally, I don't know if you can see, but there's not any pedestrian push buttons to allow you to enter into a pedestrian phase, either whether that be exclusive or going with the whatever green is happening at the time. And then here in Sandwich at 6A at 130, there's no accommodations whatsoever. There's a very large swath of pavement with.
That's a fun one to get across.
It's a tough intersection. We noticed some bicyclists trying to navigate that when we were out there actually snapping some photos. 6A is signed as a bike route, Claire Saltonstall, or Bike Route 1, so that's where bicyclists are gonna be. And here we are. We have some bicyclists. This is over at the Cranberry Highway intersection right here, and you notice there's actually a car coming in the other direction, so that bicyclist is going against the flow of traffic, which is something you don't often see, don't like to see. We want to see them going with traffic. They should be traveling like a vehicle. But on the other side of this, as you may know, is when you're turning to go towards the bridge, so they may want to be on that other side so they don't get clipped when a vehicle is turning. So they may be doing that for a safety reason. And here we can see some more bicyclists in Brewster trying to use that little bit of shoulder there before the curb to sort of give them that little extra space. But we can see, the motorists are giving them the space they need. We also see a variety of different users. We were able to get a picture of this person on a scooter. And you can see, there's a little bit of shoulder there too for them. And like I said, it's signed as Bike Route 1 for a majority of 6A. We have some transit accommodations. So like I mentioned, there's a number of transit routes along 6A. So you'll see Cape Cod RTA buses out, especially out here in Shore Road. And these operate as flag stops along their routes. This is a bus stop over in Provincetown. Not much of a bus stop, just a sign out there to note that is a guaranteed stop where you can get on and off. Here we do have a bus stop. This is just behind our offices at the county complex in Barnstable Village. It's typically what you would see of an RTA bus stop. And we also wanted to note that there are schools, so there's a variety of different users along 6A, and schools are definitely one of them. So these are areas that become heavily used in the mornings as well as in the afternoon peak periods when you have the drop-offs as well as the pickups. And so we were out collecting our photos and happened to notice that it was during the drop-off morning, so we wanted to grab that photo. I like this photo particularly too, as when this was happening, there was a car that was trying to go around that garbage truck and almost struck the vehicle that you can see that's in the right-hand lane. They were not able to see that there was, first of all, a bus coming out as well. So I don't know if you're familiar, this is over in the West Barnstable Elementary, so it's kind of a very curvy section right there. You can also note that there's sidewalks in this location, but yes, they're really, really narrow. So that brings us to the public comment tool. Both Dave and I have done a lot of talking, and it's now the time that we'd like to hear from you. So we have this public comment tool that we've developed, and I'm going to give a brief overview here, just covering the overview of what you'll see in the town profiles as well as the actual comment map itself. So this is what it looks like when you go to our comment tool. It's going to open up with this, and then you'll have 3 tabs to select. The overview tab just gives you an overview of all the projects as well as some, I think, of the ongoing projects in the area. The town profile selection, specifically we called out each one of the towns, and it'll have a blurb of how many miles per quarter are owned by MassDOT in the town. as well as the reported crashes, speed limit variation, and then any miles of sidewalk, as well as historical structures or certain things of note that we wanted to call out. And so on the town profiles as well, there are these specific pictures where you can click to zoom in to specific areas, and that will zoom in on this map over here. You can see we're zoomed in on Route 6A at Quaker Meeting House, and we have a couple of layers turned on. So we have toggleable layers that you can provide different information. Here we have selected crashes on Route 6A from that 2020 to 2024 timeframe we looked at, as well as we have the historical places layers, which.
So is this online now?
Yes, yes. So we have a flyer that we can give to you, but also if you go to the commission website and I believe it's under safety or studies, and then I'll take you to it. But this flyer here has a QR code as well as the website link that can take you there. Thank you. Okay. So this is what the comment tool looks like at the very last tab of the website. You can see we have a distinct gap in this area. We're looking for comments from Sandwich, West Barnstable, and specifically Bourne. We've gone to pretty much everything out towards the east now, and we certainly would like to get some comments over here. So you can add comments, whether they be accessibility related, bike, pedestrian, historical character related, transit vehicle safety, or if you just have a general comment, other is probably the category you're looking for. You can, if you scroll down on the side here, there should be a place where you can click to add your comment, and you can then type it out and it clicks exactly where you would like to post your comment. You can see someone posted one in the bay because it was more of a generalized comment for the entire corridor.
You comment on the comments?
You're ahead of me. So yes, so this is what if you were to click on a specific comment, if you wanted to read, let's say let's zoom into that 6A at Quaker Meeting House again. We see we have 2 comments there already. And someone's commented, there has been so many crashes here, a traffic light or something else is needed to slow people down and make it safer for people to cross from Spring Hill Road. And then they've noted the location. And so you can see there's 2 options here too as well at the bottom. There is a place where you can add an additional comment to that if you'd like to agree with that person or politely disagree. You can simply also just like it with a thumbs up, and if you agree. We generally would like to see people thumbs upping, as many comments as you can in there, just so we can start to prioritize some of the things that are more highly liked than others.
Do you comment?
Do we comment? So
No, we're not going to go through and comment back because you're not going to get like a notification or anything like that. If you would like to email us, I'll have an email and then we can have a dialogue about your comments. I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So I think that's it for me. I'm going to transition back over to Dave to cover our next steps in this section.
Yeah, I'll just wrap this up here and then we can have a conversation. So I guess the question would be, so what are you going to do with all this information and what's kind of the goal here? So a couple years ago, the state put together a corridor study for Route 28 across our region. What they did is they looked at the different sections of that corridor, right? You have your village, your town centers, you have those transition areas coming in and out of those areas, and then you have the kind of that third area where more residential, rural, driving between communities. So we're trying to find those different areas of 6A. When you're entering a village center, what does that look like? We have Barnstable Village. I talked about the Yarmouth Port Village project that's coming down the line. Can all of our village centers start to look like that? So you know that you're somewhere where you need to be going slower. People are going to be walking, there's businesses and the like. The big thing is that speed limit map that Evan showed earlier too. It's up, down, up, down. Is there a way to can we consider capping the speed limit at 40 rather than 45 on 6A? And not having those areas where you're going 45 down to 30, 30 up to 40 again, and kind of just smoothing it out along the corridor. So there's some more, cohesion and people kind of know the speed they're supposed to be going in different sections. And then looking at the intersections along the corridor as well. So we've called out numerous intersections with high crash locations. What types of fixes can we do that are 6A contextual to improve accommodations? In some cases, it could be just adding crosswalks or pedestrian push buttons. In some cases, there might need to be some tightening of the curb radii, or maybe a small section might need a little bit of widening because then you could get a 4-foot shoulder and improve the accommodations for bikes and pedestrians in the area. So that's all what we're looking at right now, and working with the state to try to find those 6A contextual designs for our region. So that's the challenge right now, because there are state requirements. We're trying to figure out how can we soften those for our historic roadway.
Can you stay back on that slide?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't really see those numbers. So what, when you take it from 40 to figure 36, what's the width on figure 36?
So this is all from the Route 28 study. So
Yeah,
none of that
I'm
is.
just curious what that looks like, what that width is.
That width there is, oh geez, 40 to 50 roughly.
Okay.
In my quick math, that's not great. But so those are the types of concepts that we're going to start to put together for 6A. We'll do an existing, right, when you have 11-foot travel lane, 11-foot travel lane, no shoulder or shoulder, sidewalk, whatever it is, and then start to put together those diagrams that say, here's what it could look like. And then here's how much more pavement we might need in a location, or here's how we can reallocate some of the pavement in a location. You know, the goal is to stay obviously well within the right-of-way. Evan mentioned we're anywhere between 40 to 70 feet of right-of-way. Just because we have 70 feet of right-of-way doesn't mean we need 70 feet of pavement. That's crazy. Just because we have 40 feet of right-of-way doesn't mean we need 40 feet of pavement. So we're just going to try to find those pockets where, you know, is there a sidewalk that ends, and if it went another, I don't know, half mile, and it got you to another major connection, what does that look like? What type of process would be needed to kind of outline there? We've done tons of social media outreach, so we have a media kit. Yeah.
So this has been mostly focused on cars and sidewalks. Very little on, I mean, unless I missed in the first 4 minutes, very little on actual bike paths. So are you thinking that bike paths would like make a wider sidewalk, or are you thinking about a completely independent thing? Or, you know, what's in your head when that picture showed a bike path, shared as this bike path, but everything else was this little thing 2 feet wide with a tree in it, you know?
So
what are you thinking?
So everything else is because that's what's there today. I just need to double note again that the photos here are shown for Route 28. I'm not sure that a bicycle path along 6A makes sense, given the historic context and given the limited right-of-way. But there could be locations where there is space for a wider sidewalk, which would allow better access for bikes maybe to get off the road if they'd like. Or there could be areas for wider shoulder along a travel lane, so that way bikes have a safer, a little bit of a wider space to bike that isn't necessarily in the lane. That's the hardest part of this whole process, is to figure out how to allocate the space on 6A for all users.
I actually walked 6A from Sandwich to 132, all the way up and then over, you know, it's a 15-mile walk. And I didn't see anybody walking. I mean, if you're gonna travel on 6A and not be in a car, I think you're talking bicycle. And that's the point. So when you say, I'm not sure it's appropriate, we're supposed to put a bike path through town somewhere, somehow.
So, yeah, one of the, on the early slides when you were doing current conditions, it didn't necessarily talk about current projects, but one of the current projects is to make a connection between Service Road and the canal.
Yeah.
And use 6A as part of that between Main Street and Tupper Road. And
That
that's,
would be really cool.
it would be great. We're still a ways off from it's becoming reality, but it's in the right direction.
Is that part of potential vision?
Absolutely.
That little bit?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And that's not included because of how early that one was.
Yes.
Because we don't want to start to give.
No, it's not even being considered for funding at the moment.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
other than the grant that we are using today.
But definitely, that absolutely is part of this.
Yeah. So they're looking at a long-term vision with a regional scope. And we obviously look at our long-term vision with our municipal scope. We have in the master plan concepts for additional facilities on additional portions of Route 6A. But I will say that the master plan doesn't have 6A fully accommodating bicycles with infrastructure. It's not to say that there couldn't be things done with paint or other ways to make it more bicycle friendly. But we have such a long way to go in so many areas of town that I would say that probably we would look more to the regional vision for guidance as to how we approach it municipally.
It's just when you're in the summer, and I love these bikers and they're out on 6A, and they're hugging the right-hand side. But you gotta get 4 feet away from them, and that means you're in a double yellow line. You're over the double yellow line on a blind curve. So you're endangering yourself, and I'm wondering.
Well, 6A is not the only place in town where that's the case.
What would I do? You know, I think I would just hit the car. I don't think I would hit the bicycle rider, but still.
The actual law states that you wait in your lane until it's safe to do so, right? So you're not supposed to put yourself in danger by crossing over the yellow line until it's safe to do so. But the point is well taken. There's not a lot of room out there. I'm sorry.
No worries. This is the whole point, is to get the feedback. I'll just go back one more slide. Outreach, we have done lots. Like I mentioned earlier, 3 public meetings. 2 of those are recorded on our project webpage that you have access to now that you have the flyer. So if you want to take a look at those and hear what other folks were saying, that dialogue in those meetings, that's a great place to go. Use the online public comment tool, zoom into Sandwich, click around, go to those intersections that you know are tricky. I think it said we had 240 something crashes over 5 years along 6A and Sandwich. That's quite a few. Of course, that considers the entire length, but that's quite a few. Kind of figure out where those hotspots are. That's what we're trying to do too. We provide all that information to you in case you didn't realize there was that many crashes along Route 6A. So when you're going to make comments, you have as much information as we feel like you need to provide thoughtful feedback. Like I said, we're meeting with MassDOT, the roadway owners. We're meeting with our communities. We're going to be bringing this back to our boards for updates regularly throughout this upcoming year to let them know what we've heard, what we've started to study, and then get their feedback as well. Long term, we'll probably end up having another suite of public outreach meetings once we have some concepts put together, because we're going to definitely want some feedback on that. Obviously, there's going to be lots of different opinions on certain segments, and that's going to be a fun experiment. But that's really all we have for a presentation. I'm happy to just take any comments, have any conversation, or you folks are more than welcome to submit your feedback to our public comment tool.
So full disclosure, 3 of us on the committee live on 6A. 2 of us are fortunate enough to have a sidewalk in front of our house. So we certainly buy into a larger vision that includes more pedestrian and bike facilities. That's sort of the natural bias of our committee. It's also a personal bias of some of us who live on the road. So we appreciate you coming in to share what's going on. I don't want to monopolize the conversation either.
I love this, and I'll be submitting an article to the Sandwich Newcomers and Neighbors Club, inviting 100 other people to look at this site and post their comments.
Please do.
Yeah.
As I recall, you all have been to one of our meetings before, at least one, maybe more than one. You live off of 6A or on 6A?
No, we're on Pine Street.
Okay.
But I'm committed to low carbon, so I take my bicycle, anywhere I can. And I know a lot of those turns.
Sure, sure, excellent. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for hosting this.
Sure.
I'm surprised that, there's lots of chairs here, but this is a hot topic.
The good news is it's being recorded, and we'll be sharing it on our social media accounts.
I have this too in a PDF form if you want that.
Please.
I gave that to the Cape Cod Cycling Club last week, and I saw that one blast out to everybody. So
Yeah, if you shoot that to me.
That would be great.
yep, I can get that to Sean. Easy.
I do have do you, because I know you're doing like the visioning and out there, and then you showed some plans where a number of other towns on 6A where they're, are putting in like sidewalks and everything. I'm sure that's going through Mass DOT. Are there any plans in the works for Sandwich? Because it's, it's Barnstable, Yarmouth, all these other towns are getting this, but it doesn't seem like Sandwich is, you mentioned, and there are a number of places in Sandwich where sidewalks on 6A would be very useful.
As of right now, there's nothing even unfunded in the MassDOT realm. I know Sean was mentioning the potential future rail trail connection along 6A. That would be the only thing I'm familiar with at this point, but that's really early infancy still. Those projects I showed are sort of unrelated to the visioning study. That's just things that are sooner in the pipeline that we were just kind of calling out as the state's already taken a look at some spots too. And then just getting general feedback on those as well. If folks are really adamant about, yes, please do this Yarmouthport project, every public comment helps.
Oh, because, as we know, how long the process takes for everything to move along, so even if nothing, like in the sense is being discussed now, anything that would possibly be done is a long way away.
Yeah.
I'm not aware, and Sam can correct me if I'm misspeaking here, I'm not aware of any state-initiated projects along the corridor. I think right now the state is as focused on that bike path connection as we are. And so that would be the primary project in Sandwich right now.
And you mentioned the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. I think there was some discussion too about the Bikeways Pedestrian Master Plan that the town has. We can summarize the recommendations for the 6A corridor from that and provide that to you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, there's several.
Okay, great. Yeah, like I said, every bit helps because every recommendation from every previous report is going to be called out somewhere in our final report with the recommendations from this one as well. It's to keep hitting home this fact that just because it's historic and we don't want it to change too much doesn't mean some things can't be done. So we definitely want to hear everything. So that'd be great.
There is a locally recognized bike route in town, the Canal to Main Street bike route, which includes on-road facilities. There's a portion on 6A. So we'll share that information with you as well.
Perfect.
We call it our lollipop route because it has the shape of a lollipop.
All right, cool. I like that.
Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, check out the website. If you have any issues, you'll have my email contact through the webpage as well. So if you have questions or don't feel like going through and putting in every point yourself, I've put in plenty from some email comments. So I'm happy to do that as well too. But yeah, I appreciate Sean. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say that was Evan's first presentation he gave in person. So
Open invitation to come back anytime. We love presentations.
do you want me to leave you a couple of these for Sam or for
Oh, yeah, please.
in town?
Yep.
That's great. Yeah,
Pass these around.
the PDF would be great too.
Yeah, and I'll get you the PDF too, of course.
Thank you. All right, I'll get back to my agenda. So next on our agenda is the shared use path, service road shared use path update. We spoke at the last meeting around the trail naming and had conversations around that. Sam, I know that you've dug up a little more information on that, so I was going to let you speak to that if you could.
Yeah, ultimately, service road is town road. It was technically laid out by the state as part of the Route 6 effort back in the 40s. And, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
But it was laid out as specifically as town road, in which case it is in the care and custody of the select board. And in turn, the DPW director has a role in that as well. The select board's role there is laid out in the town charter and the town bylaws.
So if we were to make a recommendation or some consensus that we felt as a committee regarding naming of the path, we would have to direct that toward the selectmen, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
I would just add that given the level of support we received from the state and potential for future cooperative efforts, Whatever we end up doing for a name, I would just strongly suggest that we work with all the entities that have been involved and potentially may be involved in the future.
That's fair.
Do we know when it's gonna open?
Yes, it will officially open with a ribbon cutting ceremony on the afternoon of September 11th. We unfortunately do not have specific details regarding the timing yet, but I've blocked out my afternoon.
Where's the ribbon cutting gonna be though?
That has not been worked out.
That's the other one.
The where and the when.
Where and
We'll just be wandering up and down the path, looking for a
Lots of
ribbon.
ribbons.
We could cut one at every crossing. So as soon as I know, I'll share that information with the committee by email. And we'll also obviously be posting about it too, because we want that to be a community event. Anything else on Service Road?
I noticed we were riding it a couple of weeks ago and came up to heading east up to the Quaker Meeting House crossing with the lights and the buttons and could not see the walk sign. You know, when you're facing east. I mean, basically we had to watch for traffic as you would normally and try and see the lights. They're turning red. And then you hear the little voice saying, you know, time to cross, and you're going, where? Oh, there it is. So I don't know if there's any way to brighten that up or make
This
it
is
look-
using the path itself?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So as you're, you know, riding on the path, you come up to the intersection of Quaker Meeting House, push the button for the crossing, and it works. And, you know, if you have good hearing, you can hear it's time to cross. But the little walk sign is almost invisible.
Okay. Was it obstructed in some way? It seemed-
No, it's just a small little box with a little walking guy. I mean, something bright yellow around it that would be more of a visual
Look here.
marker. Might be helpful because basically you want to watch the cars, you know, to make sure you're safe. But to have that sign more prominent would be good.
Good.
Well, now that I know no state cop is gonna pull me over if I ride on the bike path, maybe I'll try it.
Please, yeah, go right ahead.
It's beautiful.
I've ridden it too.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've seen lots of people out there. Walkers, bikers, scooters,
Okay.
strollers. Seen it all. Okay, anybody have anything else on that?
again, I still want to bring up because again, you know, so Nancy's out there walking on it there, and there, and all the time that she's been out there, there's not been one time that a bicyclist has gone by her that hasn't even mentioned anything about them coming up, like, you know, behind her or whatever. And, you know, that, I mean, I just see that as like an accident waiting to happen. Somebody's gonna, because all they have to do is take a step one way, you know, and I know everybody will say, well, oh yeah, well, everybody knows that. Well, a lot of people that bike, especially out there, don't know that. Like I said, she's been walking out there now for, you know, a couple months, and she said every biker that's gone by, not one has said, you know, like notify that they're coming up, whatever. So, you know, there have been signs put up in other places, especially like down at the marina, that say, you know, you have to, if you're on a bike, you got to make an audible signal that you're going to pass a biker. And I think that, you know, something, you know, out there, you know, needs to be placed, because there are a lot of people just trying this out new now, and then maybe, so it's for a safety reason. I mean, I hate to see anybody get hurt, you know, by, and then say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
We put a sign at the parking lot, like, this is how a bicycle rider approaches a pedestrian.
Yeah, just
Stay on your left, give them a.
just an audible signal,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, just so that you know somebody's coming up like behind you, because, you know, I mean, even though it's wide, you know, there's still, you know, people walk, you know, you can be moving around, and you could have, like I said, it could be somebody in a stroller, it could be people walking dogs or whatever, you know, that you know, could be an issue.
Related to that, I did forward you guys an email that Sam had sent to me
Yeah, I did, I looked at it, it was very good, I already went through it, it was, it was a nice job, and that was on there. That's good for if you're gonna go and look that, that stuff up, but a lot of people, they go out there, they're gonna go on their bikes, they're not looking at.
I believe part of Sam's email was that there'll be a kiosk, informational kiosk added at the parking lot.
Right.
Oh, which one? Oh, which one?
We're requesting just some feedback at this point
Okay.
on potential rules and trail etiquette. Which
Yeah,
is
trail- yeah.
it's
And that's,
nothing new, it's all based on
Yeah.
Cape Cod Rail Trail and Canal Path.
Okay.
And the idea is to sign it, at least at the trailheads of the parking lots, possibly also at the east end by Chase Road. We're still working out the details on that.
speaking of that, I know you mentioned that was the one that I think I guess the accident or accident or whatever took out that post
Yes,
or whatever.
that's right.
So we were going back and forth, so is that one gonna be fixed in time?
Yeah, I've heard from MassDOT, they're actively working to get that replaced.
Okay.
So I don't have any more specifics than that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, hopefully it'll be done for
Yeah, I
no
think
guarantee, I know.
there's a lot of people looking to have that done before the ribbon cutting.
As part of the email string that was going around about the ribbon cutting, there was some emphasis placed on finishing. So,
Good, so yeah, would be nice.
for sure.
I just wanted to correct my comment, Sam, we were heading west.
Westbound, okay.
Westbound, yeah. Coming from the west coast, I get confused with
You know what?
oceans on the
When I went to college in California, I gave directions and received directions wrong all the time.
I know.
Because the water is on the wrong side.
Exactly, I know, and I lived my life on that.
It took me a year.
Yeah, well, obviously it's taken me more like 40, so.
Okay. Anything else on Service Road? I was not expecting Sam to be at this meeting, so I kept the agenda light. So that's why you do not see items on here regarding some of our other projects, but we'll resume discussions on those at our next meeting, just in the interest of agenda posting rules and all that. Town Neck Safety Zone. A couple of you attended the neighborhood walk that took place there on August 8th, I think. I had intended to go and was stuck at my desk with a work item, but I don't know if Daryl, you wanted to say anything about it?
I did, yeah, I mean, it was very, very informative how they took us around the walk, and Charlie was there, and Steve Zaros was there, and from I forget the person's name from the police, I don't know if you remember.
John Manley.
And so they.
Manley, excuse me.
And the interesting thing is, like, they tell, they're kind of like walking around, not that the roads are that wide to begin with. There were, 30, 40 people, I forget.
Yes.
And, so we're trying to all walk on the side, but I mean, the cars even like going by us in groups and all like there, they were, just whizzing by, and that was one of their concerns about how they were talking about like the speed limits. And I think the biggest things that they brought up were, obviously the speeds, but, there's like no signs, there's a place where there's no stop signs. And not only are there no stop signs, there's no stop lines. So even if there was a stop sign there, people would, still go through the stop sign because there's no stop line there, and it was very, very informative, but I don't know if Charlie wanted to add anything else to that. Like I said, it was really good turnout
as well. Yes.
Yeah, a really good, turnout because of obviously, the people that were all concerned around about their neighborhood and driving around. So, I think they're moving forward with trying to get on the town meeting, the law.
Town meeting, yes.
To be able to get to, do something about it. And what I found was interesting is that, the regular speed signs that are white are the regulation ones. Is that what it is?
Yeah, regulatory.
Regulatory, but there's yellow ones that you can have made up, I guess, or whatever. And even if they move the speed limit, it could say 35, and then they could put like yellow ones up that said speed limit 20. To try to get people to slow down. bike ones would be the actual, because there are certain, rules and regulations, I guess, on terms of, how speed limits are determined, even in those neighborhoods. If they wanted to do it, less, they could, but there'd be a, yellow sign.
I see. Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I know there was some discussion in the papers, and I've actually talked to Sam about this, about whether Sandwich can set a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit or a lower speed limit, or whether we have to do a traffic study and the state gets involved and everything. Has a ruling been made on that? Do we have the power to do it? Or do we know we have the power, we can't do it?
I think that's a very in-depth and involved answer to that
Kind of
question.
kind of a messy situation.
Let's see, so for specific streets, there would be there's potential to adopt a regulatory speed zone. Technically, whenever a regulatory speed zone for a specific street is adopted, it still requires a traffic study and a speed study, with consideration given to 85th and 50th percentile speeds. I recently had a discussion with the state traffic engineer at MassDOT about this in consideration of the effort to rezone streets within town neck with the safety zonage.
So you're looking into it.
Yeah, we're looking at it. It does require, at this time, it still requires a speed study though.
I was riding this weekend off Cape, and I think it was when I was in Amesbury. They have a town-wide speed limit of 25, signed all over town, which surprised me because I had not seen that before. And I've heard of that being contemplated in other Cape towns, particularly in the context of the Vision Zero study that Dave referenced in his presentation. So actions and initiatives like that, I think, are possible, but I don't think we as a town have made any decisions as to what direction we're going. Certainly nothing that this committee has contemplated, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and I would just urge careful consideration.
Yeah.
To any of those efforts, because there is an option for a statutory speed limit change under section 17C, I believe, which is different from a regulatory speed limit, and so and that allows for a reduction of a thickly settled speed limits from 30 to 25 on a town-wide basis, or on a street by street, but it's statutory. And it's a slightly different mechanism. The statutory speed limits, not necessarily the regulatory instantaneous speed limits. There's a number of different factors to consider, depending on the avenue it's choosing.
I think this committee has weighed in on the benefits of a safety zone in town neck because of the interests of cyclists and pedestrians.
Yeah.
I don't think we've yet weighed in or waded into the conversation regarding anything other than that. Last item under the ongoing business for the agenda was e-bikes. Peter couldn't be here tonight, he was working late. So I'll just say that I did send an email to MassBike to see if they could attend our next meeting. I've not heard back. I will resurface that with them after this meeting to see if we can get a guest speaker or representative on that topic. I've certainly seen a lot of posts on the Cape Cod Rail Trail Facebook page regarding their dealings with e-bikes. It doesn't seem like it's been a pleasant experience for some, maybe not all. But anyway, just more to come on that.
Have you seen any on the bike path?
When I've been riding it, no. Well,
Is it like, well, we haven't seen.
I see them along the canal all the time.
On the canal, okay,
I noticed there were some new signs on the canal, at least at the east end of the canal, that I hadn't seen before, that, said regarding e-bikes,
The Army Corps,
pedal assisted.
the Army Corps has put up over the last couple of years on their electronic signage boards that they put out about e-bikes and the types of e-bikes that are allowed.
Right,
But I do see fishermen use them to cart their gear
Oh,
no, yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
I've never been passed by a bike that I thought didn't belong on the bike path, but I've certainly been passed by many. Not that I'm a particularly fast rider, but so they're definitely in use down there, and I've seen them on 6A riding in front of my house. Those seem like that they're a little more souped up, but I have not seen those on the bike path.
Yeah, 'cause, because we haven't seen any either.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't, but I mean, I know we're down on the one end, I didn't know if like on the other end.
I have on the Shining Sea though.
Yeah.
You see it pass
oh,
by
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of use down
places that
there.
are questionable legality on that.
Sure. It's definitely something that we will deal with, I think, sooner rather than later. So it'd be good to be armed with some more information. So hopefully we'll get that next meeting. If not, we'll put it off to a future meeting. New business, I had nothing specific. Did anybody have anything they wanted to bring up under new business? No? Next meeting would be September 15th, I believe. That's the third Monday in September.
So that means the ribbon cutting will be before the next meeting.
Yes. Yep. So we'll just have to communicate by email on that.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be other announcements besides that too. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
7:32. Thank you, everybody.